First in the news this morning, environmentalists are suing the city of Los Angeles, saying the city has turned Santa Monica Bay into a giant toilet.
In the late 90s, what we found was that we had fecal and total coliform bacteria in Santa Monica Bay, basically poop.
An environmental group called Baykeeper is saying what a lot of people already know too well, that there's a serious pollution problem here and that something needs to be done right now. And we're talking about raw sewage leaking from sewer pipes.
So you can imagine you're standing there in a street, the manhole cover is floating, and the sewage is pouring up out of it. At that point, then it would just flow across the road into one of the storm drains and get ushered right to our coast or to our rivers without any sort of treatment, filtration whatsoever.
For years, sewage had been washing up into the Santa Monica Bay, and it didn't matter how many people complained about it. The city was unwilling to do anything about it.
When we were considering filing this case, the question we had to ask is, could we win it? Because certainly the resources of the city were immense. They would have the ability to drag this thing out or bury us in paperwork. And we finally just said, you know what, we really don't have a choice. If we're going to try to get this job done, then we went after it.
The city of Los Angeles is facing a huge multi-million-dollar sewage suit.
The environmental group called Baykeeper is suing Los Angeles, charging the city is running a third-world sewage system.
This was as much an environmental justice case as it was about just strictly pollution or impacts to the environment. It was underserved communities throughout South Central Los Angeles that were being adversely impacted. We were up against a massive city infrastructure with resources far greater than ours. The Impact Fund was one of the first folks on the ground providing us with the necessary resources to say, okay, we got another 6 months.
Cases we fund are the cases that can change the ground rules, can change a company, change government behavior in a way that will affect hundreds, if not thousands, of people.
The city of Los Angeles finally agreed to a 5-year plan. Really what it came down to in the end is a $5 billion expected expense of the city of Los Angeles.
It's not surprising that the Santa Monica Baykeeper case didn't settle until after years of litigation, because the fix would have cost billions of dollars. Thousands of miles of sewer lines had to be repaired. Nobody's going to do that unless they've got to do it. And the only way the city understood it had to do it was when a lawsuit was filed by people who had the resources and wherewithal to push it to the end.
In the past 3 years, we've already seen an 80% reduction in the volume and frequency of spills in our city. It's now a source of pride rather than a source of irritation to the city. It's really a classic example of being a responsible caretaker for the environment. It makes good economic sense as well as environmental sense.
UNICAL had arranged to have a joint venture with the Burmese government to build a pipeline and take it across the Burmese countryside into Thailand. And the Burmese government engaged in horrible human rights violations. We represented 11 Burmese villagers, men and women. Men had been forced to work on the pipeline. To me, this was really an amazing example of lawyers working with people on the ground to figure out what problem exists and is there a mechanism in the law to try to solve it.
The UNICAL case was made possible because brilliant lawyers dug deep and found a law that was over 200 years old, that had rarely, if ever, been enforced.
And this was going to be a case for the first time using it against an American corporation.
The Alien Tort Claims Act allows people from other countries who have been wronged in their country by American corporations to be sued in federal court here in America. There's definitely a huge corporate interest in getting the Alien Tort Claims Act defeated. There are millions and millions of dollars being poured into lobbying efforts to prevent exactly what is happening in our case.
People were watching to see what could happen. Was there really accountability in United States courts for their conduct overseas? There were many struggles. The clients were all overseas in refugee camps, and we had to have an elaborate procedure to communicate with them.
Not only is it the problem of language and dealing with different governments, but you have the risk of security to your own clients. There's a risk that your plaintiffs could be murdered. So these are cases that are unbelievably challenging.
You know, we were dealing with an enormous company that had unlimited resources, and they could litigate this, and they did litigate every single step of the way.
It's as though they have some God-given, inalienable right to sue Unical. They have no such right, and they have no such case against this company. All they have are...
The Impact Fund gave us 4 grants on 4 different occasions, which I understand is fairly unusual. They showed by giving us that money that they also thought it was an important cause, and it was something that they believed was worth spending money on.
First item is John Doe versus Unicall Corporation and others.
As time went on, and as the evidence came in, the judges began to rule in our favor that American corporations should be responsible for upholding the law, both the international law and California law. And we were about to go to trial, which is when the entire case ultimately settled.
It has become a symbol throughout this country of what can be done to protect people in countries, other countries, from outrageous conduct by American corporations.
This was without question the most interesting and moving case. The clients were so involved in the process. They felt that they had so little opportunity for redress. They came from a country where you don't challenge the government. You just don't do that. If you do that, you get killed. And they trusted us, and they partnered with us, and we were able to make a difference for them.
Corporations think at times they have a lot of impunity in the United States, but put them in a third world country, talk about impunity, they're the big shots there. They figure they can do anything they want. So this case was beyond David and Goliath. This was the ant challenging the elephant. And the amazing thing about it is the ant won.